Today, I'm going to give you a user's guide to teach you how to go about performing a massive grift on a whole bunch of sheeple. It's done in 3 parts, so pay attention. So this is actually kind of a complicated grift. It's a grift in 3 parts essentially. So you have to make sure that you've got all 3 parts working and in sort of the same equal way that it's not going to put pressure on one or the other part. And it means that you're going to sort of have to share your resources a little bit to make sure that you get the ultimate return on your grift. The first thing you need to do is set up what seems like a charity, and you tell people that you're a not-for-profit organisation and imply that you're a charity, but you don't actually register as a charity. You register, if you need to, as a not-for-profit. And the reason for that is because not-for-profit groups don't have to publicly report their incomes and outgoings. And yes, there are some rules around where you can spend your money as a not-for-profit, but not-for-profits are allowed to employ people, and they don't have to publicly say how much that they're putting out to anything that they're spending their money on. And even if you do, the IRD isn't allowed to refute it because that would be a breach of the Privacy Act. So if you're going to start a grift, make sure you start with a not-for-profit organisation, not a charity. That is, if you register at all. There are some organisations that just fall under the umbrella of other charities or tax-free organisations like churches, as though it's their destiny to do so. These organisations set up shell companies and shell organisations that use different names like, I don't know off the top of my head, Freedom and Rights Coordinators, and they funnel their funds directly back into what they consider church donations, so therefore there is no tax paid on them. Right, the next step involves making some money, and to do this is actually pretty simple and old-fashioned. Buy yourself a whole bunch of merch. So you can go out and get people, right, first of all they can donate to you if they want, but if you're selling them merchandise, you can mark it up 50%, 100%, nobody's going to know. In fact, if you go and buy 1,000 shirts and print one colour on the middle, set you back about $15 a shirt. They retail on the Voices for Freedom website for $30. That seems like a fairly good marker. Their hoodies go for $75 and they cost about $40 to make. The profit that you earn on each of these products, they can go straight into your not-for-profit organisation, which, as we pointed out before, you don't have to tell people how you spend your money or where you get your money from. But there's still one element that's missing from this grift, and it's kind of a big one. So the third part of this is actually a lot more complicated. Usually, what you need to do is get people angry. This is called outrage marketing. Nike cashed in on it a bit when Colin Kaepernick was dropped from the NFL, and then they hired him, and Nike sales went through the roof because people were so angry that he was their spokesperson that they bought stuff to burn. If you've got a large-scale international crisis that you can cash in on that freaks people out, that sort of leaves people wondering what on earth's going on, and plays on their cognitive inability to be able to latch on to exactly what's happening to process the issue, then you've got yourself a guaranteed moneymaker. If you make people angry enough, they're going to spend their money on things that express that anger. And with freedom journalism having no stops, checks, balances, or third-party regulation, it means you can say anything you want on social media to get people worked up, and they kind of just suck it up and buy it. Now, it could backfire on you a little bit in that you might cause a riot in the capital city, brought about by a whole bunch of angry people who have been fed misinformation over the last 30 days, who have camped out on the corner of the parliament. But what are the chances of that happening? So remember the 3 simple steps for grifting sheeple. Make sure that you set yourself up in a way that you don't have to pay taxes and you aren't held accountable for what your expenditure is. Make sure that you've got a whole bunch of cheap, nasty merchandise and donation options available for wherever people are looking. And capitalize on a massive pandemic and the spread of misinformation in a way that is downright dangerous to both people's personal safety and democracy. Get those 3 down and you are guaranteed to get away with a grift to a whole bunch of sheeple who seem to believe that what you are saying is true. And by the time they finally realize that it's not, the pandemic will be long gone and they'll either be dead, poor, or far away from you. So that's how you go about doing it. You know what? Until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Ka kite anō.